"Excuse me, sir. Could you step aside for a moment?" The security guard's voice was sharp, clipped, like a blade sliding out cold. The mall's marble floor echoed beneath their feet, but all Jalen could hear was the thud of his heartbeat in his ears. Jalen stopped. He turned slowly, eyes meeting the guard's. The guard was white, mid-40s, square jaw tight with authority, his gaze flickering for a second, like he saw a problem but wasn't sure what to do with it. "Is there a problem?" Jalen asked. "Quietly, you're loitering near the electronics section," the guard said. "We've had some complaints. Mind if I check your bag?" Jalen's jaw clenched, but his voice stayed calm. "I'm just waiting for my cousin. This is public space." The guard didn't blink. "Security protocol, please cooperate." People nearby started to glance their way. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken assumptions. Jalen's fingers tightened around the strap of his backpack. He kept his tone steady, but inside the old hurt settled, the invisible weight of suspicion again. "Look, I'm not causing any trouble," Jalen said, voice low but firm. "I'm here to shop, same as anyone else." The guard's eyes narrowed. "Sir, if you don't cooperate, I'll have to escort you out." A voice cut through the tension, calm and clear. "That won't be necessary." Jalen's head snapped up. Standing behind the guard was a tall man, impeccably dressed. The mall manager. His skin was lighter than Jalen's, but darker than the guard's. There was a quiet authority in his stance, one that shifted the atmosphere instantly. "Mr. Thompson, I don't think this is necessary," the manager said, voice even but carrying. "Wait. We trust Mr. Carter here isn't causing any problems." The guard hesitated, eyes darting between the manager and Jalen. "Sir, I was just following protocol." The manager's gaze sharpened. "And I'm asking you to step back." He turned to Jalen. "I'm sorry about this. We've had issues with overzealous security before." Jalen swallowed hard. It's okay. Happens more than I want to admit." The manager nodded, understanding settling in his eyes. "Let me make this right. Come with me. I want you to meet someone." They walked past the curious onlookers who whispered and stared, but said nothing. Jalen's heart pounded. He didn't know what to expect. They reached a sleek office with glass walls. The manager opened the door and gestured inside. "Mr. Carter, this is my uncle, Mr. Reynolds, the owner of this mall." Jalen blinked. Mr. Reynolds looked up from his desk, eyebrows raised but eyes warm. "So, you're the one they've been hassling?" His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. Jalen's mouth went dry. "Yes, sir." Mr. Reynolds stood, walked over and extended his hand. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's unacceptable." Jalen shook his hand, feeling the firmness, the power behind it. "Thank you." The manager smiled faintly. Sometimes people forget that power is responsibility. Jalen exhaled slowly, the tension easing from his shoulders. For once, the invisible barriers cracked, and dignity stood firm. The guard lingered outside the office, shifting uneasily. He glanced at the manager, who gave a subtle nod. The unspoken message was clear. Not all rules are equal when power speaks. Jalen sat down across from Mr. Reynolds. "I just want to be treated like anyone else." Mr. Reynolds nodded. "You deserve that, and I want to make sure it happens. I'm going to review our security policies." Jalen's voice softened. "It's not just the rules. It's the look in their eyes, like I'm less." Mr. Reynolds's eyes darkened with regret. "I understand. That pain is real. I've seen it, even within my own family." Jalen glanced up, surprised. Mr. Reynolds continued quietly. "We have a long way to go, but moments like this, when we speak and listen, are how change begins." The silence between them wasn't empty. It was heavy with history and hope. Outside, the mall buzzed with life, unaware of the quiet battle fought in these walls. Jalen felt something shift inside, a small reclaiming of space, a subtle victory, Mr. Reynolds smiled gently. "You're welcome here, Jalen, always." And for once, that simple truth was enough. The manager escorted Jalen out. The guard looked down, muttering, "Sorry." Jalen met his eyes. "We all have to learn." The guard nodded slowly, a crack in his own armor. As Jalen stepped back into the crowd, he held his head high, because sometimes the loudest power is quiet dignity. Silent moments cut sharper than words. "Did you really think it would be different this time?" The voice was low, almost a whisper, but the weight behind it filled the cramped kitchen where Jalen sat across from his cousin Marcus. The dim light flickered above, casting shadows that clung to the walls like old ghosts. Jalen's hands curled around his mug, knuckles white. I don't know. Maybe if he knew me, he'd see me differently." Marcus shook his head slowly, his eyes tired but steady. "That's what they want you to think. That change is just one handshake away. But the system doesn't bend for us. It only tightens." Jalen stared at the worn wooden table, the silence stretching between them. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. Finally, he looked up. "But today, when Mr. Reynolds said I'm welcome here, that felt real." Marcus's laugh was bitter, a sound that tried to break free but caught itself. "Real? You don't get to be real until you don't have to prove it every damn day." Jalen's breath caught. "I'm tired of always having to prove it. Tired of the looks, the suspicion, the way they watch me like I'm a threat." Marcus leaned forward, voice low but fierce. "It's not just about what they see. It's about who they think they own. You, me, all of us. They want to keep us in cages made of fear and doubt." Jalen's eyes filled, but his voice stayed firm. "But today, I saw a crack. Just a crack." Marcus's gaze softened just a little. "And that crack's what we hold on to. But don't let it fool you. The fight's bigger than one man's apology." Jalen nodded slowly. "I know. But maybe that apology is a start. Maybe it means someone's watching. Someone who can change the rules." Marcus looked away, voice barely audible. Watching is not enough. They have to listen, and they rarely do. Jalen's fingers tightened on his mug. "Then maybe it's time we make them listen." The room fell silent again, heavy with unspoken pain and the weight of history. "Promise me you won't let them break you," Marcus said finally. Jalen met his eyes, a flicker of steel in his own. "I won't." They sat together in the quiet kitchen, two warriors worn but unyielding, bound by blood and the shared burden of being seen as less. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the battles fought in small rooms and whispered promises. For Jalen, today was a beginning, not an end, and sometimes beginnings are the most dangerous things of all. Silent moments cut sharper than words. The kitchen was small and cramped, the yellowed wallpaper peeling at the edges like old wounds refusing to heal, the flickering fluorescent light above cast harsh shadows, and the air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and yesterday's regrets. Jalen sat at the worn wooden table, the chipped edges reminding him of the years he'd spent fighting invisible battles. "Did you really think it would be different this time?" Marcus's voice was low, almost a whisper, but the weight behind it filled the room like a storm about to break. His eyes, dark and tired, locked onto Jalen's. "After everything, you still believe one handshake changes the game?" Jalen's fingers curled tightly around the cracked ceramic mug, knuckles white against the worn paint. "I don't know," he admitted, voice rough but steady. "I wanted to believe. Maybe if he knew who I was, not just another face in a crowd, maybe he'd see me differently." Marcus shook his head slowly, a bitter smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "That's what they want, man, to keep you hoping, to make you think the system's just one good person away from changing. But the system doesn't bend for us. It only tightens its grip every time we reach for a crack in the wall." The silence between them stretched long and thick, like the shadows pooling in the corners of the room. The low hum of the refrigerator was the only thing breaking it. its dull, mechanical sound, a cruel reminder of the life humming along, oblivious to their pain. Jalen finally lifted his eyes. But today, when Mr. Reynolds said, "I'm welcome," here, that felt real, like maybe for once someone in power saw me as more than trouble. Marcus's laugh was sharp and brittle, as if trying to shatter something invisible but precious. Real. You don't get to be real until you don't have to prove it every damn day. Until you don't have to watch the way they look at you. Like you're less than human, like you don't belong in the same space. Jalen's breath hitched. I'm tired. Tired of the stares, the whispers, the suspicion hanging over my head every time I step out. The way people watch my hands, my walk, like I'm about to snap. Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping. Lower, fierce with unspoken rage. It's not just what they see, it's what they believe they own. You, me, all of us. They want to keep us trapped in cages made of fear and doubt, make us doubt ourselves before they even speak. Jalen's eyes glistened with a mix of anger and exhaustion, but his voice stayed firm, steady against the storm. But today, I saw a crack, just a tiny crack in the armor. A moment where someone in that tower of power said, "You belong here." Marcus's gaze softened, the edges of his face unguarded for a moment, and that crack's what we cling to in the darkness. But don't let it fool you. One moment doesn't fix years of chains and broken promises. Jalen nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in his throat. I know. But maybe that apology means something. Maybe it means there are people who see us, who want to change the rules, not just pretend. Marcus looked away, voice quieter, more haunted. Seeing us isn't enough. They have to listen, and they rarely do. Most times the walls are so thick our voices echo back at us, twisted and ignored. Jalen's fingers clenched harder on his mug, nails biting into the chipped glaze. Then maybe it's time we make them listen, not with shouting or violence, but with presence, with unbreakable dignity. The room fell heavy again, thick with unspoken pain and the weight of history. The air seemed to carry all the moments of silence and anger that had never found their voice. "Promise me," Marcus said finally, eyes burning into Jalen's, "that you won't let them break you. Not this time, not ever." Jalen met his cousin's gaze, feeling a flicker of steel ignite in his chest. "I won't," he said quietly, but with every ounce of strength he could muster. They sat together in the dim kitchen, two warriors worn, but unyielding, bound by blood, by shared scars, and by the unyielding fight to be seen as equals. Outside, the city roared on, oblivious to the battles fought in small rooms, in whispered promises, in the quiet resilience of those who refused to disappear. For Jalen, today was a beginning. Not a victory, not a full reckoning, but a step forward on a long road. And sometimes beginnings are the most dangerous things of all. The hallway smelled of cold concrete and stale cleaning fluid, a smell Jalen knew too well. He walked beside Marcus, their footsteps muffled against the dull grey floor tiles. The mall's polished marble had ended, replaced by the bare bones of the back corridors, the place no one cared to see, just like him. "Do you ever get tired of it?" Marcus's question hung heavy in the quiet. All the watching, the judging before a word's even said. Jalen didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes on the flickering lights above, on the cracked ceiling tiles that mirrored the cracks in his own patience. "Yeah," he finally said, "more than I let on." Marcus glanced at him, lips pressed tight. "Most people don't see it. They think it's just paranoia or playing the victim, but it's real. It's every glance that lingers too long, every door that closes just a bit too fast." Jalen stopped walking and faced Marcus fully, the weight in his chest pressing harder. Today, when that guard stopped me, I saw the fear in his eyes, the fear that I might not be just a problem to handle, but someone who could make him lose control. Marcus nodded slowly. That fear is power in disguise. The same. Power that keeps us in place, but it's also a crack, a sign they know their hold is fragile. Jalen's voice dropped to a whisper. I felt it too, the shift when Mr. Reynolds spoke up, like the world changed for a moment, just for me. And that scared me almost more than the guard's suspicion. Marcus frowned. Why scared? Because that change isn't guaranteed, it's fragile. It can snap back the next second. I'm tired of hoping for moments that might not last. A silence settled, heavy and full of everything they hadn't said. Marcus reached out, clapping Jalen's shoulder with quiet strength. We hold on to those moments. We fight for them, not just for ourselves, but for the ones coming after. Jalen looked away, the weight of years pressing on him. Sometimes it feels like fighting the tide with bare hands. And sometimes, Marcus said softly, you find the strength in the water itself. Jalen met his cousin's gaze, a flicker of fire reigniting inside. Then we keep fighting, quietly, dignified, without breaking. Marcus smiled, a small knowing curve of lips. That's the fight they don't see coming. They moved again down the corridor, side by side, two shadows in the flickering light, unseen but unbowed. In the office, Mr. Reynolds sat behind his desk, rubbing his temples as he thought about the day's events. The security report had landed on his desk with a note of concern. A young man stopped without cause, dignity bruised, authority challenged. He thought of Jalen's steady gaze, the quiet refusal to be diminished. It was rare. Too rare. The phone on his desk buzzed, breaking his reverie. He picked it up. Yes, I've read the security logs, he said carefully. We need to do more than just apologies. He paused, listening, training, awareness, changing the culture. It starts at the top. A slow nod. Agreed. I'll call a meeting first thing tomorrow. He hung up and looked out the window at the setting sun. Change was slow, painfully slow, but today had been a step, a small crack in the foundation. And sometimes cracks were all that stood between silence and a roar. Outside the mall, Jalen stood beneath the streetlights, the city humming around him. The night felt colder now, but the warmth inside him burned steady. He pulled his jacket tighter and looked up at the sky. One crack at a time, the night would break, and with it, maybe, a new dawn. The elevator dinged softly as Jalen stepped inside, the confined space suddenly feeling heavier than the wide mall halls. His reflection in the polished steel walls stared back at him. Tired eyes, clenched jaw, a man carrying invisible scars no one else saw. The silence between him and Marcus was thick, punctuated only by the soft hum of the elevator rising. Finally, Marcus broke it. You know what I hate most? How they act like respect is a privilege, not a right. Jalen shifted his weight, voice low but clear. Every time they treat me like a threat, it's a reminder. I don't belong. Not really. Marcus's gaze hardened. They want us to feel that way, to shrink ourselves. But shrinking won't save us. It only buries the fire deeper. Jalen swallowed the lump in his throat. Sometimes I'm scared the fire will burn me out first. A pause. Then Marcus said softly, that's why we hold on. To each other. To moments like today. To the small cracks in their armor. Jalen looked up, searching Marcus's face. And if those cracks close, they won't. Not if we keep pushing, quietly, with dignity, without shouting for permission. The elevator stopped, the doors sliding open to the bustling first floor. People passed by without seeing them, absorbed in their own worlds. Jalen stepped out, shoulders squared, breath steady. I'm tired, Marcus. Tired of fighting invisible battles every day. Marcus nodded, clapping a hand on Jalen's shoulder. I know, but tired or not, we don't get to stop. Jalen glanced at the mall entrance, its gleaming glass doors, reflecting a world that often didn't reflect him back. One day, Maybe they'll see us as we are. Marcus smiled faintly. One day. Until then, we keep moving forward. Together. They walked side by side, two shadows in the crowd, unseen but unbroken, carrying the weight of their history with quiet strength. Back in his office, Mr. Reynolds stared at the security footage on his screen. The guard's hesitation, the subtle shift when Jalen arrived, the uneasy tension in the air, it all told a story no written report could capture. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "This can't keep happening," he muttered. Picking up his phone, he dialed. "Schedule a training session, diversity, bias awareness, everything. Starting Monday." He paused, listening. "Good. Let's make sure this is the last time someone walks away feeling less than welcome." The city outside twinkled as night deepened. Change was slow, but it was moving, and sometimes that was enough. Jalen stood outside under the night sky, the weight of the day settling around him like a heavy cloak. But inside something stirred, a quiet flame refusing to be snuffed out. He pulled his jacket tighter and looked up at the stars. Tomorrow held a promise, fragile but real, and sometimes that promise was all you needed. The coffee shop was nearly empty, the late afternoon light slanting through dusty windows and catching motes of dust in the air. Jalen stirred his drink absent-mindedly, eyes distant as Marcus sat across from him, watching quietly. "Remember when we were kids?" Marcus began, voice soft. "How things felt simpler, even if the world outside wasn't." Jalen nodded, a small smile flickering. "Yeah, innocence, before the weight settled." Marcus's smile faded. You say time heals, but some wounds just get older, deeper." Jalen's gaze dropped to his cup. "I've been thinking about today, about that moment when Mr. Reynolds said I belong here. It was more than words. It felt like a door cracked open." Marcus leaned back, eyes sharp. "It's dangerous to believe in cracked doors. Sometimes they slam shut before you get through. But maybe," Jalen said, voice steady, "if enough of us stand at those doors, they'll have to stay open." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I hope you're right, because if not, we're all just waiting in the dark." Jalen's fingers traced the rim of his mug. "I want to believe there's light." Marcus reached across, gripping Jalen's hand briefly. "There is. In us. In our fight." The silence that followed was different, not heavy, but full of something fragile and precious. Outside, the city buzzed, unaware of the quiet revolution brewing in two simple cups of coffee. Later, in the gleaming mall corridors, security teams gathered for a new training session. The lead instructor's voice echoed through the room, filled with words about respect, bias, and awareness. But beneath the corporate language, there was a shift, subtle, necessary. Jalen's name had become more than a report. It was a call to change. That night, as Jalen lay awake, the weight of the day pressed on him, but so did a strange hope. Maybe this was the start, not the end, not a solution, but a crack, a beginning. And sometimes that was enough to keep going. Unseen. Battles stretch long into the night. The city hums outside Jalen's window, distant sirens, muffled voices, the relentless pulse of life that rarely pauses for those caught in its cracks. Jalen sits alone, the glow of his phone screen painting his face in pale light. A message blinks from Marcus. "Hold steady, we're just getting started." He breathes out slowly, the tension in his chest loosening, if only a little. The day's events swirl inside him, the cold suspicion of the guard, the unexpected defense by Mr. Reynolds, the whispered conversations in cramped kitchens. Each moment a thread in the tapestry of struggle, hope, and quiet resistance. He texts back, simple but loaded. "Together." A soft knock at the door breaks the solitude. Marcus steps inside, his presence grounding. "No one fights alone," Marcus says quietly. Jalen nods. "But some battles feel so heavy." Marcus moves closer, voice steady. "That weight means you're carrying something real. But remember, strength is in holding on, not letting go." Jalen looks up, eyes glistening but resolute. "Then we hold on for ourselves, for those who come after." A pause. The room fills with unspoken understanding. Outside, the night deepens, but inside, a small flame burns, fierce and unyielding, because dignity, once claimed, can never be taken back. Morning light filters through blinds as Jalen and Marcus prepare to face another day. The mall waits, a place of commerce and confrontation, progress and prejudice. They walk side by side, their steps echoing a promise to keep moving forward, quietly, fiercely, together. The fight isn't over, it's only beginning. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the bright lobby buzzing with shoppers. Jalen paused at the threshold, the noise washing over him like a wave. Laughter, footsteps, the hum of normal life moving forward, as if yesterday's tension had never existed. Marcus caught his eye and nodded. "Ready?" Jalen inhaled deeply. "As ready as I'll ever be." They stepped out into the light, heads held high, their presence quietly demanding space. A woman bumped past, muttering an apology that barely touched the moment. Jalen's gaze flicked to her, then ahead. No resentment, just resolve. "People don't see what they don't want to," Marcus said softly. "But that doesn't mean we stop being." Jalen's voice was steady. "We exist, we matter, and we won't disappear into their silence." They moved through the crowd, each step a small victory. Ahead, the security guard from before glanced their way, hesitation flickering in his eyes. He looked away quickly, a shift in the air. Acknowledgement. Without words, Jalen felt a quiet satisfaction. The guard's discomfort wasn't defeat, but it was something, a beginning. Later, in the quiet of his office, Mr. Reynolds reviewed new policies drafted for inclusion, anti-bias training, community outreach, clear consequences for misconduct. He leaned back, a sigh escaping. Change was slow, fragile, but necessary. Outside, the city lights blinked on, and the night stretched wide, full of potential and challenge. Jalen sat by the window, the city skyline a jagged silhouette against the fading dusk. The fight ahead was long. There would be setbacks, silent battles, moments when dignity wavered. But tonight, for the first time in a while, hope felt real. And sometimes, hope was the strongest weapon of all. They didn't expect him to know. "Excuse me, sir. Can you step aside for a moment?" The security guard's voice cut through the crowded mall like a cold blade, sharp and unyielding. Jalen stopped mid-step. He turned slowly, meeting the guard's eyes. The man was solid, mid-40s, face tight with authority. "Is there a problem?" Jalen's voice was low but steady. "You've been lingering near the electronics section. We've had some complaints," the guard said, voice clipped. "Mind if I check your bag?" Jalen's jaw clenched. "I'm waiting for my cousin. This is public space." The guard didn't budge. "Security protocol. Cooperation is mandatory." Nearby shoppers glanced their way. The tension thickened, a heavy cloud of suspicion hanging over Jalen's shoulders. His fingers tightened around his backpack strap, calm on the outside. Inside, old wounds reopened. "Look, I'm not causing any trouble," Jalen said, voice calm but firm. "I'm here to shop." The guard's gaze hardened. "If you don't cooperate, I'll have to escort you out," a voice interrupted, smooth but commanding. "That won't be necessary." Jalen's head snapped up. Behind the guard stood a tall man in a crisp suit, the mall manager. His skin tone was between Jalen's and the guard's, a quiet authority radiating from him. "Mr. Thompson, please step back," the manager said softly but firmly. "We trust Mr. Carter here isn't causing problems." The guard hesitated, eyes flicking between them. "Sir, I'm just following protocol." The manager's gaze sharpened. "And I'm asking you to stand down." He turned to Jalen. "I apologize for this. Overzealous security has been an issue." Jalen exhaled slowly. "It's okay. It happens." The manager nodded. "Let me make this right. Come with me. I want you to meet someone." They walked past whispering shoppers, the air thick with unspoken stories. Jalen's heart raced. They reached a sleek office. The manager opened the door. "Jalen, this is my uncle, Mr. Reynolds. He owns the mall." Mr. Reynolds looked up, eyebrows raised, eyes warm but serious. "So you're the one they hassled?" Jalen's mouth went dry. "Yes, sir." Mr. Reynolds stood, offered his hand. "I'm sorry. It shouldn't have happened." Jalen shook it, feeling the power behind it. "Thank you." The manager smiled faintly. "Power comes with responsibility." Jalen's tension eased. For once, dignity felt real. The guard lingered. Outside, shifting uneasily, the manager nodded subtly. Inside, Jalen sat across from Mr. Reynolds. "I just want to be treated like anyone else." Mr. Reynolds sighed. "You deserve that. I'll review security policies." Jalen's voice cracked slightly. "It's not just the rules. It's the look in their eyes like I'm less." Mr. Reynolds' eyes darkened with regret. "I understand. That pain runs deep, even in families." Jalen blinked, surprised. Mr. Reynolds continued softly, "Change starts when we listen. I'm committed to that." Silence stretched between them, heavy with history and hope. Outside, the mall buzzed, unaware of the quiet battle within. Jalen felt a shift inside, a reclaiming of space. Mr. Reynolds smiled gently. "You're welcome here, always." Sometimes. That was enough. The manager escorted Jalen out. The guard muttered, "Sorry." Jalen met his eyes. "We all have to learn." The guard nodded, a crack in his armor. Jalen stepped into the crowd, head held high, because quiet dignity is louder than suspicion. The room was heavy with silence, a silence so dense it seemed to press against Jalen's chest, threatening to crush the fragile hope he clung to. The fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead, casting shadows that stretched like memories across the cracked linoleum floor. He sat across from Mr. Reynolds, the mall's owner, a man whose power was both a shield and a cage. "You have every right to walk these halls without suspicion," Mr. Reynolds said, his voice steady but quiet, the kind of voice that carried the weight of countless unseen battles. "What happened today was unacceptable." Jalen nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the worn edge of the table. "It's not just today. It's every time they look at me like I'm a problem they have to solve, like I don't belong." Mr. Reynolds leaned forward, fingers steepled. "I know. I've seen it, not just in the halls, but in the silence that follows. The unspoken assumption that you're less. It's a wound society refuses to heal." Jalen's throat tightened. "I'm tired of carrying that wound alone." A flicker of something like regret crossed Mr. Reynolds's face. "You shouldn't have to carry it alone. That's why we're changing things, starting with training, awareness, accountability." "But will it change?" Jalen's voice was barely more than a whisper. "Or will it just shift, waiting to rise again when no one's watching?" Mr. Reynolds' eyes darkened. "Change is a battle, slow, exhausting, painful, but every crack in the armor counts. Today, you made one of those cracks." Jalen looked up, meeting the steady gaze. For the first time, the weight in his chest felt less like defeat and more like defiance. Outside, the mall thrummed with life, laughter echoing through the corridors, footsteps marking time, the world moving on as if it were unaware of the quiet revolution unfolding within its walls. Jalen stood, the tension in his shoulders easing, his spirit stirred. "I'm ready to fight, not with anger or noise, but with presence, with dignity that won't be ignored." Mr. Reynolds smiled faintly. That's the strength they fear most. A knock at the door. Marcus stepped inside, his eyes steady and fierce. He nodded to Jalen, a silent pact between warriors forged in quiet resolve. They left the office together, walking back into the mall's bright bustle. Two figures reclaiming space, rewriting the story. The guard who had stopped. Jalen earlier watched from a distance, the rigid line of his jaw softening just enough to show cracks in his certainty. Jalen met his gaze briefly. No words exchanged. Only the undeniable power of being seen. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows that stretched toward tomorrow. The fight was far from over. The scars would remain. But for the first time, hope was louder than fear, and sometimes that was everything.